Good morning, everyone. This is John Scarborough. Figured I'd make a little video today about cutting out fire rings. It's a pretty brisk morning. Figured it's a really good morning to cut some rings out. I've got a couple different ones. It's really hard to see what the designs are here until you'll see them a lot better once they get cut out, but you can kind of see there, like I got some trees and a little deer under there. Over here, for all you LSU fans, I got one, if I can get that in there, right? Got one for LSU. I live in Louisiana, so it's a pretty good seller here. Just wanted to talk a little bit about what we do up here in the shop for making an income. So like anyone that's new to the channel, we kind of diversify our income. Our goal here is to stay home or as close to home as possible and not have to go to a day job is the main thing. And so like my wife, she goes to farmer's market and she sells microgreens and things like that at the farmer's market. She'll take some of my leather work up there and sell that at the farmer's market. But I'll also take these off. Like tomorrow I'll be in Monroe, Louisiana, selling these rings and fire pits. And if you'll take a ride with me up here, I'll show you some of the fire pits. But what I kind of wanted to talk about today was just mostly just different ways of making income on a farm. And the biggest thing that I've learned, and it's not even about necessarily being on a farm. Farming is just what works for us. Really, it's just about making an income at your home. Now, there are a lot of people that do it online, and they have online businesses and things like that. This is a ring that I made, a fire ring. You can see the cutouts a lot better on these rings. And those are some fire pits. That's another thing that I offer. This is kind of the better seller, more like a premium product here. The sun is really shining on my camera really bad, so I don't know how well y'all can pick that up. This one right here is New Orleans. Like I said, I live in Louisiana, so kind of do a lot of Louisiana stuff. Now I'm from Texas originally, so kind of just do whatever sells, really. But back to the income at home, like I was saying, a lot of people, they will take and make their sole income, like they'll make it from computers at home. And that's a big thing. That's normal. Like you see that a lot. One of the things that I've noticed is that that's typically what people think. If you're making an income at home, you've got an Etsy account and you're selling crafts or something online, or you've got, like, you do some sort of computer marketing of some kind. You have there's a lot of people, they do copywriting and things like that, you know. But the biggest thing that I see that a lot of people don't realize is that there's more ways to make money than just that. And not everybody wants to sit at a computer all day. Not everybody wants to spend their time indoors all day. I know I don't. If I'm going to be indoors, it's going to be in a shop. But personally, I really like being outside. I like seeing, I like working with nature. So for me, an at-home job, a way of making a living at home is more, it has to be more than just working online. Now, I know a little bit about business. I know a little bit about copywriting and sales technique and things like that. And I could make a little money like that, but it's just not something, I wouldn't be happy. Let's put it to you that way. It'd be more like just an average job. But this right here, I like coming outside and this being my view from my office right here. This is what I like right here. I mean, check out that. I mean, yeah, the weeds are bad, I know, so don't rag me too hard. But this is a whole lot better. I mean, I can smell fresh air. I can hunt when I want to. I can fish when I want to. I can, you know. So for anybody that's wanting to do in a business or make money from home, you don't have to just do it online. You don't have to necessarily do it. Well, I mean, you get the point. Now, I don't want to ramble on too much about that. I mean, I appreciate all the people that do it. It helps us a lot. But for anybody that wants to do something other than make a living like this, the main thing that I'm trying to get at is not just about one thing. If you want to make a living the way we do, it's about diversity. So we have cattle. We're hoping to get some sheep to help take care of some of this weed pressure, but also just because there's a market for us. And that's the big thing. There's a market. So diversity. And sheep and cows actually go quite well together. But the other thing we do is you pick out things that you're already good at, or things that you either really, really like, or things that you're good at. So like me personally, I used to be a welder. I still am, but I used to travel for a living. Well, now I work out of my shop, and I build fire pits, custom fire pits. I do fire rings, and we go to art shows and things like that, and we go sell them. Well, that's not something necessarily everybody's going to do, and it's not something that everybody can do necessarily. But it is something that it's just an idea. It's based off of a theme. Another thing that I do with the skill that I have is I also do a lot of fab work in my fab shop. That's here at my home. And that just kind of happened by accident, word of mouth. It got there. But it keeps me doing what I love, being here at home, and not having to take the time of drive time. I mean, drive time takes a lot. My wife used to drive an hour a day one way to work. So that's 2 hours out of her day that was taken up by driving. She wasn't getting paid for it. She wasn't getting anything out of it. So just things like, I'm still doing the fab work, but it's out in my shop. It's literally a 1-minute walk from my house, if that. I love doing it. And then my wife, she grows microgreens, and she grows different things like that. And what she wanted to do was have a greenhouse, but then we found that the income was a little bit better and a little bit easier to do in the wintertime with microgreens. Now, she still may do greenhouses, but she's probably going to continue to do the microgreens. And what's so great about it is it's something she loves to do. She loves to be around, well, she likes to grow plants. She likes to work in greenhouse and things like that. So myself, of course, what I said was, well, what can we do with this? You know? So I'll let y'all see my pretty face for a while. So I decided, well, you know what? I guess if she can't, you know, if we can't do a greenhouse right now, let's do something that she loves to do that brings in a little bit more income, because the greenhouse wasn't quite going to cut it. We're going to have to get into debt to do it. So we didn't want to go that route. One thing we try to do is keep from being in debt as best as possible. And that's another thing you have to really do if you're going to make your sole income at home, is you got to be careful about bringing on too much debt. So you want to slowly advance into things as you can afford them. So like we wanted to get hot wire up in our pastures, and so that we can run sheep, and so that we can move our cows around a little bit better. It's not just forced to one pasture. Well, it's 20 acres, nothing you can do about it. Just, you know, we wanted to be able to tighten them up a little bit and things like that. But it took some time. We had to get a little bit of money put back. We had to get the time to actually put it all up. And we're still not all the way there. But the things are, it's like you take one thing at a time. And the fire pits is the same thing. You know, I had most of the tools to do everything, but the plasma cutter, I had to go buy the plasma cutter. So I had to wait until I had the money to purchase the plasma cutter. Well, then, like this trailer right here, see? I mean, I had to buy that trailer just so I can haul stuff around, you know? Well, if you go get a loan and you go trying to do all this stuff, well, then a lot of times you end up going broke, especially if you're trying to diversify, like I said, because you're bringing in your income like a little bit here and a little bit there and a little bit in another place. Well, if you do that and you're getting into debt in all these different places, that's where you start running into a problem. But if you don't have any debt, if it doesn't work right off the bat, that doesn't mean it can't slowly get into working. You can make it work over time. So, and that's one thing you can do to as kind of a way to check yourself to see if it is working. Well, if you're not in debt and you're taking your income and you're putting it back in a little spot, a bank account or a little envelope or something like wherever, however you do it, coffee can, whatever you do, you're putting that money by itself. So like fire pit money, you put that in a separate spot. Cattle money, you put that in a separate spot. Sheep money, you put it in a separate spot. You don't do that forever, but you do that at first. And then every time you need to reinvest, you dip out of that spot. Well, if you get to where you constantly don't have the money in that spot, then you know that something's not working. Either you've got to do better at selling, you've got to do better with your product, you've got to slow down on your spending. Sometimes the word make do is a word no one likes, but really it's one of the best things you can do over time. So once you get to the point where you are able to continue to dip out of that and invest and invest and invest, and then you grow, then you know that it can actually be a business that can work. But if you can't do it, well, you may have to cut your losses and realize that, no, this is not going to work. I can't do it. Like, for instance, leather work is a good example. I started doing leather work at 12 years old. I love doing it. I've actually gotten to where I'm pretty decent at it. If anybody's interested in checking that out, you can go on Instagram and look at Scarborough Leather Goods. That's on Instagram. That's not really a business I do. It's more like a hobby. I love doing it. Well, I tried to make money doing it and realized that I really couldn't make a lot of money doing it. Definitely not a full-time income, and it couldn't be the only thing I could do. So everybody says do what you love. Well, you can't always do just one thing or 100% of what you can't always do 100% of what you love, but you can love what you do. Okay, now that's important. Well, so I love working with cows. I love working with nature. I love working with metal. I love working with my hands. I love doing leather work. And my wife, she loves doing a lot of the same things, but a little bit different. She likes doing like greenhouse and microgreens and flowers and things like that. So it's kind of the same, but it's a little bit different. But it's perfect. It works well together. So we figure out what we can do that actually makes money and what we can't do that makes money. Well, so some of those things, like leather work, like I said, I was able to find that I can't really make a living at it, but I can make some stuff and enjoy doing it and send it to her market with her. Just like a little section. She's got a little section where she sells some of the leather goods that I do. Well, I don't make a lot of money at it. I really don't. Mostly I just tell people it supports my habit. I mean, I enjoy doing it, and I like bringing quality products to people. So I just do that but I don't ever take any orders hardly. I don't, or anything like that. I just make it when I enjoy making it. We bring it up there and we sell it, and it gives me pretty much enough money to go back and buy more leather. And sometimes I can buy a cup of coffee, but it's something I like doing. But I had to weed that out and realize that I couldn't make a living doing that. So it couldn't be part of our staple. So we found out that cattle, we can have cattle as a staple. We can do metal work as a staple. And we're finding that with the microgreens and a lot of the plants and stuff she sells, we're finding that we can make that somewhat of a staple. But none of them really are doing it on their own. Definitely, we can survive on it, but we're not living. But all three together, they work well. So like fire pits and fire rings and things of that nature, obviously, you're not going to sell very many in the summertime. I think I sold one this last summer. But, I mean, in the summer before that, I didn't sell any. But then in the winter time, like right about October to Christmas. I mean, that's when you sell all of that. So you, through the summer, when you're not real busy, your cows are grazing, you just move them here and there. You're not feeding them hay or anything. Then you, through the summer, you stockpile and build up on all your metal work, on all your I'm talking about me personally. That's not what you're going to do necessarily, but you build up on that product. Okay, so then in the wintertime you can be selling it and you're not having to worry about building a whole bunch. I still do some, but only if I have time. And then in the wintertime you can focus on just selling and then feeding hay or doing whatever you got to do in the wintertime. So you just kind of have to mix it all up and figure out what works good, what doesn't. And so for other people, what might be a good example is if you're really good at mechanic work, or something like that, and you had a shop at home, you could do a little bit of that, and then you could have, say you got a little bit of land where you could raise some sheep or some goats, or something like that, and try to make that work, and a little bit of money here, a little bit of money there, all adds up to be a lot of money, or well, at least enough money to make it. The biggest thing that you have to realize when you're making a living at home or trying to be at home is you're already doing better because you're not having to pay for drive time. Technically, you don't have to pay for a nice car because you don't depend on that car every single day. I'm not saying you're not going to have a nice car. We like to have, decent vehicles, but paid off. That's the second point I wanted to make about making a living from home. People get into debt on almost anything. And if you can stay out of debt on all of these things, if you can stay out of debt on your land, I mean, you might, your home, you might get some debt on that, and you might get some debt on some businesses. But if you can stay out of debt on a lot of this stuff, at least until you know what you're doing, before you go and investing in some debt like that, then a lot of times you can make it better because you're not spending all that money on interest. When a person buys a house and they spend money on a 30-year mortgage, if the interest rate is right, I have seen some of them end up being that they pay twice the money when they're done. Now, I'm not saying don't get a loan on your house. We did. I'm just saying that that's a good point. If you try to do that on everything, pay double the money on every single thing you own, a lot of your money gets taken away just doing that. So on a lot of this kind of thing, on the businesses that you're doing, the little small businesses you're trying out at home, you can take and try to stay out of debt with that, and then you're not putting a bunch of money into interest, like the trailer I was talking about, or the plasma cutter, or even when we bought cows, we bought all of that in cash. Now, I'm not saying it didn't take us a while. I mean, it did. I've been working and saving money for years now, so it took us a while. It did, and we've had a lot of help, and we're grateful for that. But the point is that those kinds of things, like the fire pits, if I would have gotten in debt on that, I would have been in a bind because it didn't take off right off the bat. And the cows, if I would have gotten into debt on that, I mean, I would have been in debt. I mean, I would have been in a bind on that because it takes a while before you start getting money into your calf crop, and then sometimes you don't have as many calves as you thought you would, or something like that. If you're trying to make a living off of that as well, it can be really hard. So the point is not being in debt. That's already a big deal on that kind of thing. And I'm not talking about no debt. I'm talking about not being on debt on your side businesses, on the way you're making money, or if you're doing a mechanic shop or something like that. That's just an example. I hope you're all following me here. I kind of ramble sometimes. But I'm just trying to make a good example here of things that you can do at home. It doesn't have to be on the computer. It doesn't have to be, it's not just cut and dry. I mean, some of us people that really like to, we're more hands-on, or we like to be, we like to work outside. We like to, or we're just not smart enough. I mean, however you want to slice it. It gives us opportunity as well to work at home or be at home. And there's several key factors, and one is, like I said, trying to keep the debt to a minimum on the new businesses. 2 is diversify, and 3 is doing what you love to do is great, and a lot of times you can do what you love to do, but sometimes it's more about loving what you do than it is doing what you love, because you're not always going to do, in other words, even if you do what you love, so like I love cutting out fire pits and things, but that doesn't mean, and pretty much I love everything that I do for a living, but that doesn't mean that I love every tiny aspect of it. There's days that I don't love that day, or there's things that there's certain things that sometimes you got to do you just don't like to do. So just remember that I mean, sometimes you do stuff you like to do, sometimes you don't, but it's about combining, doing all the different things that you do love, and you end up being more productive in all of that. Now, I think a really good book for anybody looking to do anything like this is the 80-20 Principle. That's a wonderful book. If you haven't read it, I don't care what you do for a living, that's a good book. You need to go read that. Anyway, I'm not going to sit here and ramble on too much. I wanted to talk a little bit about ways, different ideas for making a living. You can use these principles. You don't have to do what I'm doing. You don't have to raise cows. You don't have to have fire pits. You don't have to have anything like that. You can use these same principles and get this. I mean, you might be a guy that is good at copywriting, and you can stay at home and do some copywriting. Well, that may not give you a full sole income. Now, if you're really good at it, it probably will, but it may not. If you're just mediocre, it may not give you your full income, or you may not want to be in the house sitting at a desk doing that all day every day. You might not want to be. You might want to be out in nature, or out with your, you might like doing other things. Well, at that point, then you can go find other ways to make a living. You can do some leather work along with it. You can do, like I said before, a mechanic shop. I say that because I got a brother that is a really good mechanic. I got a couple of them that's really good mechanics. So if that was an example, if that's something they were trying to do, then they could have a shop at home. They could do that, but it wouldn't have to be just that. You could combine different things with that. I mean, heck, I guess if a guy wanted to, he wouldn't be at home all the time, but he could throw mowing yards in the summertime with that. Like, okay, he's at home most of the time. He still makes his own hours. He's still kind of his own boss. So he mows yards throughout the summertime. Well, then in the wintertime, he comes home, he takes care of, like, let's just say copywriting. The point is the opportunity is endless. You don't just have to go clock in and clock out every day. You don't have to punch a time clock. You don't just have to work for the man all the time. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. There's not at all. I enjoyed it when I did it. But if you want to be at home, or you want to be able to do this is something you can do. You can start to get more and more into this. Another thing that we're looking into is self-storage, doing that. Well, that self-storage is, and I'm not saying that you're not going and taking care of the business or things like that. You are, but you're still kind of getting to run things according to your own hours a little bit. Anyway, it's something we're looking into. We don't know a bunch about it. We're just kind of looking into it. So, but the point is the possibilities are endless. I've seen people with a grove, like a nut grove, and they got a huge place out there, and then they run cows through that, or an orchard or things like that. And that's a partial income, and they combine it with all sorts of other things. So just food for thought. These are things that people can do. This is something you can do. It's working for us. It is. But anyway, didn't want to drag this video out too long. I know that I haven't really put a detailed video on kind of everything we do or what this channel is about. So if anybody doesn't know by now, it's kind of just about how to make a living at home. But we're hoping to put all the, a lot of details and a lot of helpful videos on what you can do. I do a lot of videos on grazing and on cattle and things like that, and on property management. But anyway, those are all different things that we do, trying to help people understand what they can do to get out there and to make what they want work. And if y'all have questions about it, put it in the comments. You know, I'll talk as best I can. You know, if unless there's like 100 million comments, then I'm not going to promise you I'm going to read all of them. But put some comments in there, talk about it. And if anybody's interested in the fire pits or fire rings that we do, you can put a comment in there that tell me you're interested, and I'll get in touch with you, and we can certainly make you one. I mean, that's what we do. We make these to order, you know, fire pits, fire rings. If you're interested in looking at some more of what I got on that, you can go to my Instagram. It's I'm thinking about other Instagrams. I got multiple pages. Smoldering Art Premium Fire Pits is what it is. So it's like Smoldering Art, and then it's got a little dash, and then Premium Fire Pits. And then I mean, if you type in Smoldering Art, you'll find it. And on Facebook, it's just Smoldering Art. So I know I kind of got it complicated, but if you look that up, Smoldering Art Premium Fire Pits, then you'll find all kinds of stuff on there. It's mostly fire pits, the ball pits. I've got quite a few of those. I've kind of made a name for myself doing that. So if you're interested in anything like that, you know, go check it out on Instagram, go check it out on Facebook, follow me, like my stuff. That does help me a lot, and I really would appreciate that. And share this video. Y'all gotta help me grow my YouTube channel. I'm really trying to get it out there. I do have a lot of helpful information that I believe can help people, you know, and but that's really what this is about, is us all helping each other when it comes to YouTube, you know. So, you know, if y'all don't mind, I mean, share my stuff, you know, like my stuff, subscribe to my page. That really helps. So